Good morning everybody, hello. Welcome to another video. Thank you so much for joining me again. We are back in the workshop and it is very nice to be here. It's Friday morning, I've had a long week at the repair shop. I'm very tired with some good and bad news. You've probably seen on my Instagram, if you follow me on Instagram, the Ranelagh project that I'm working on, the wheeling machines, we're getting very close to casting the first one, which is going to happen in December. So we're literally weeks away. And I need some money. I've got lots of people to pay. Chris at the foundry, the pattern makers, and I'm running out of space here. I'm trying to kind of preempt that in the new year, there's going to be lots of Ranelagh wheeling machines coming here and I need a crane and somewhere moving them around. I need more space. So the Edwards wheeling machine that I've got at the back of the workshop, I spent years almost, I feel like it was years, a long time trying to find a wheeling machine. Nice old Edwards. I wanted the Ranelagh, but I couldn't find one. So I ended up finding that Edwards. I was really pleased. I drove all the way out past Wolverhampton to pick it up. Absolutely, it was like, I am being buried with this thing. I love it. I was over the moon. It's a beautiful machine. The paint on it's lovely. It's in really good condition. It's not had a hard life. It's a really lovely machine. I was over the moon and I've loved it ever since. You've seen it in the back of many videos and many pictures. It's the green one down the end. It's a lovely thing. I put it for sale on my Instagram. It was a tough decision, but I would never have another one. I would never get another one, but I just thought, you know what, I need to put all my efforts into this Ranelagh project. So I can't justify the space that that's taking up, and I just don't need it, basically. So made the tough decision, listing it for sale. Instantly, there was quite a few people interested, quite a few people messaging me asking about it. And one guy got in touch, Julian, and he said he's just been on a course down with Jeff Moss. He's an amazingly talented guy at MPH Motor Panels. He does courses, like a week-long, 2-week-long course. So you can go down and spend some time down there with him. And my goodness, I cannot recommend it enough to anybody that has seen these videos and is remotely interested in wheeling. Just go down and spend a few days with Jeff. He's absolutely brilliant. And then I think Jeff actually saw the Instagram post and put him onto him and he got in touch and he's bought it. So I was expecting it to take a while to sell, but it's gone straight away. Other than coming to terms with losing a wheeling machine, which I'm really sad about, you can't even see it. It's at the very back of the workshop. So we are in trouble. The Porsche is in the way. I've actually shoved it over. And I think I've got just enough space there. So the Porsche is one problem, that's in the way. And then as we walk further down the workshop, it just gets worse because I've put this lift in, which is great for the Land Rover, but not so great because it's got that ramp on the floor. That means I can't get the wheeling machine out of there, so I need to go around it, but there's a Defender in the way. And in front of the Defender, bang, is a workbench that can't move. Well, I can, but it can't actually move anywhere. That's 10 foot, it's massive. So I'm spending this morning, I've got lots of other stuff to do. I know I should be doing the Defender, the Porsche, all this other stuff, and a lot of other filming, but I've got to get this wheeling machine from the very back of the workshop to the front, and I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do it yet. So there's the wheeling machine. I did debate just going straight out the roller shutter, but I've got a catering trailer. That catering trailer is really hard to move. The wheels have collapsed and it's just a shell that's balanced there, and that's down an alleyway. So I would have to try and maneuver that thing back up to the top of the car park, then try and get the wheeling machine out, then put the catering trailer back in. And I don't want to leave the wheeling machine outside because it's not leaving immediately. But I've just shoved all my tools outside. So I've just pushed them all outside, shoving everything out the way to try and free up a bit of space here so I can move the wheeling machine around here. Then I'll probably get it here, then move the Defender back. It's like one of those games where you have to move the squares around to try and get the thing through. So I thought I would film it, let you know, and hopefully you enjoy it, seeing me struggle. Now I've got the wheeling machine moved to the front roller shutters, I can actually make a start on today's video. I'm going to show you what these things can really do. This is a very old paraffin lamp. This one is much older, probably 1930s, 1940s maybe. This one is much newer. Not quite as exciting, but still very handy. They are very beautiful looking things, well engineered, well made torches. So I've had these two sitting around here for years. Props, I just kind of bought them somewhere I think I bought this one recently in a boot sale. This is actually, you might have seen this on the repair shop. It's been in the foreground of various shots. This one has been sitting here for years. And so there's two reasons why I wanted to get these working. I got caught out the other week. I've got a modern one. This is the modern equivalent of this. So I was stuck in the workshop. I needed to heat something up here, and I'd left my blowtorch down at the repair shop, and I was just like, oh no, what am I gonna do? What can I do? And I could not figure out a solution because I didn't have that. This is over £100. These are quite expensive. This is MAP gas, which a lot of plumbers use. I can understand it's very expensive, and I am all for trying to get people into having a go and making things and doing things and getting out to the shed. And I bet a lot of you have got one of these sitting around in the back of the shed. Have a look, rummage around behind all those jars and those nuts and bolts and pots and things. The other weekend I went down to visit my brother, who you will have met from when he came down to help me with the coffee defender. And he had one of these on the side. Of course he did, because everyone's got one. But he'd fully restored it. It was absolutely, they're all made of brass. It was pristine, super shiny. And he was raving about it. He was like, Dom, honestly, it's the best thing. You can just sit it down, light it up, and then you can set that on the table and you've got both hands free. Whatever you're doing, you can just leave something there, warming it up. He said they run on paraffin, which is super cheap. Fill it up and it'll last for a long, long time. He's like, you've got to get one. And I was like, I've got two. I don't need one, but I've never ever tried to actually get them working. I just enjoy looking at them. I've had it on the side upstairs, and I just enjoy admiring the engineering and the beauty of it. It's a lovely thing. But today we are going to try and get one, maybe both of these fired up and see how well they actually do work. Paraffin is a flammable liquid, but it is a liquid and it does not burn as efficiently as a gas. So inside this modern MAP gas, here is a pressurized container full of gas. That's why it burns so efficiently. So these are full of paraffin, which is not as flammable as a liquid. We need to get it into a gas. There's a plunging mechanism. So you pump it up like your garden weed killer, you pump the sort of garden sprayer. So you pump this up and then you build pressure up in this container where the paraffin is, and some paraffin, some air. You're pumping up there, but there'll be a seal in there that will build the pressure up in there, which will send the paraffin up through the tube, around here in this sort of chimney exhaust part, around there, heat it up. As it gets heated up, it gets vaporized, and that liquid will turn into a gas, and it will get shot out of there. And then because that is already hot, as the gas comes out of there, it's already hot, it catches fire and shoots out the end. These slots around the edge are for drawing in air. Through these little slots, mixes with the vaporized paraffin, which then turns into a gas, mixes in there and shoots out the end at a very high pressure and a very high temperature. Right, first things first. I'm going to take that off. Right, okay, next up, let's get this release valve out. So because all these parts are brass, we're not really fighting any rust. Everything's just a little bit stuck. This rusty handle out of the way. Wow, okay, that's good. I was worried about that. That screw was really rusty, but that's come out okay. There we go. That is a little strap. That's just holding the chimney piece in position. It's rusty, but it's fine. That's going to get hot once it's on, so that will all burn off. That should let me take this off. There we go, perfect. So that's the chimney part. Wow, there's some spiders in there. So that pipe goes all the way down to the bottom in there, I'm assuming. That draws up the paraffin, it goes up through there, along here, coils around there, and then this is getting hotter and hotter, all of this. So as it's going round there as a liquid, it's getting hotter and hotter. It gets vaporized, comes through here, and then gets squirted out that tiny little hole, which we need to make sure is not blocked by any spiders. Whilst it's in this section, it's drawing in air, which is getting pulled in through these slots. This is red hot, so that heats it up, it sets fire to it, and it shoots out the end. The air and the paraffin shoot out the end, and a bright blue hot flame. All those pieces have come off really, really well. We are getting there already. But the bit that's stuck is this plunge mechanism. That is tight. Please don't break, please don't break. Oh, okay. Once it starts moving, I've actually got it cracked and it's started to move now. Just keep working it back and forwards, back and forwards. Ah, there we go. That all needs a good clean. This little guy, this little seal and a spring fit inside this end piece, which screws on there. So as the plunger goes down, it builds up pressure in this cylinder. That will push against that seal and against that spring and eventually push it down, and then let that pressure through that hole into the chamber with the paraffin. This rubber is actually it's a remarkable condition. I'm amazed how good a condition that is in, considering how old it is. That is the seal against the inside wall of this tube. And then these the various nuts and washers and nuts and bits, guides, hold that all in place on the end of this rod. And then the handle would go on the end, and as you push that handle down, the rubber seal will seal against the outside of that tube and then push down, and then all that air will get compressed. It can't go anywhere because that little seal is stopping it at the bottom. Can't go anywhere, so it's getting compressed until the pressure is so much that that spring gives up, moves down, and then opens up that hole, and then all that pressure that's built up inside that tube gets pushed inside this chamber. So every time you pump up and down on this handle, that's what's happening. All these little seals and washers and springs are working their magic. This is ironic, using my blowtorch to loosen a nut on my blowtorch, but needs must. All I'm trying to do here is heat the nut. As that nut gets hotter, the metal will expand ever so slightly, and as it expands, I'm hoping that that will break the seal between the two parts. So that's all I'm trying to do here. Look at that now. Barely any pressure and it's loosened it up. Laid out on the table in front of me are all of the components for this blow lamp. They're all taken apart. Everything is as far apart as I need to take it. Now I just need to methodically go through and clean all of the pieces. All of these brass and the seals and springs that go inside the plunger, clean all of those. This tube that I've just removed is hot, don't touch it. Right, this tube that the paraffin will be drawn up and blown out of, I need to blow that through probably with a compressor just to make sure there's no spiders and bugs and things and blockages in there, because I need to make sure that is a nice clear passage for the paraffin to pass through. I'll wash that out, flush that through with some fuel or something like that, some thinners maybe, just to make sure. Actually, you know what? It looks remarkably clean, but I will clean it out anyway. I will flush it out and make sure there's no bits of debris and dirt in there. We are looking good. This is just thinners in here. I'm just soaking stuff in thinners just to try and remove anything stubborn that might be in there. Okay, so this is something else to note. The filler cap for the main tank, whilst you're filling it with paraffin, it says on it, fill 3 parts full. So do not, it's a good idea not to completely fill this. So only half, 3 parts, 3/4 of the way full, because you need to have that gap of air to give you something to, whilst you're pumping, it needs to have a certain amount of air in there that can compress and build up that pressure. So don't ever completely fill it all the way up. But it's got this tiny little hole that goes through to in there. That's a vent. So that is really important that you make sure that is clear. Spend the time looking through all these little parts, because there could well be just all these small little problems that would end up in the actual blow lamp not working. So just spend the time, go through every single part, make sure it's clean, clean, clean. I know I said I wasn't going to polish it up, okay? Please, I had to get the Brasso out a little bit. I just wanted to try and remove the worst of the tarnishing. It still looks just as honest as it did before. The lid has to have a seal. That might be leather. I'm quite surprised that it's almost a rubber, but that looks in pretty good condition, so I'm not going to replace that. But that's something to note. Tiny dab of oil around there to ease that through. Oh, yeah, that. Here's the plunger mechanism. Non-return valve, plunges inside. I've stolen the handle from the other one. And listen. That is brilliant. I can feel already that that whole plunger and valve and non-return valve system is working. So this whole unit is done. Brilliant. I'm almost there. Let's put it all back together. I've blown that through. I know that that tube is completely clear. There's no blockages in the jet at the end. It's a tiny, tiny hole in the end of the jet. So you do need to make sure that that is nice and clear. Right, that is nice and tight. Good. This chimney sort of exhaust part cleaned up really, really well. A lot of it was soot. I gave it a quick wipe, a little brush with a wire brush, and it's come up really lovely. I mean, I did want to make sure I cleaned this properly because I didn't want the whole thing to just catch fire. There's a lot of sort of debris and stuff inside. So I made sure, bearing in mind this is where the flame is going to be, I wanted to make sure this part was nice and clean. Now my steel brace. That's a little support bracket that can go on. This is the pressure release. That taper on the end, basically as you screw that in, that tapered section seals against the inside of the body of the housing, and that makes a nice tight seal, which then builds up the pressure. As soon as you undo the thread, it backs it off, lets it out and lets the air out, lets it breathe, and releases the pressure. So that is how that works. This is basically your on and off switch. And my fully working plunger, perfect. That feels good. Got a tiny bit of oil on these threads. So anything really that's screwing into the main tank where the paraffin is held, that bit, bearing in mind that is going to be under pressure, so anything that screws into that, you need to make sure it's sealed well. So this plunge mechanism has a small fibre washer that fits, and that is basically, it's almost like a gasket that just make sure that that's sealed and no pressure will come out, because if there's any pressure leaks on any of these threads, the paraffin will be shooting out and pressure won't build up and the thing will never work. It's quite often a lot of small things that stop them working instead of one big obvious failure. So the only way to get by that and get around that problem is to just lay, as I've done here, lay everything out on the table, lay everything out, take it all apart and assess and inspect every single piece. And when you put it back together, just think about what you're doing. Think if this is a pressurized container, so you need everything that fixes onto it has to be sealed nicely. Right, so, oh, is it time? I haven't got a funnel. Oh my goodness, I need a funnel. Okay. I'm about halfway. I think that'll do. I've just spilled half a pot of paraffin. It's all soaked into the wood. Let's hope the whole place doesn't go up in fire. I have got a fire extinguisher literally right next to me, so if anything does happen, oh, don't worry, I'm being safe. And I strongly recommend you take care as well. Do this outside. Don't do this in your kitchen. There's every chance, you know, something could go wrong. And the last thing you want to do is burn your shed down. So please be careful. Paraffin is flammable. Do not really work on a wooden workbench because it does catch fire if you're not careful. I can't get it to work. I can't get it to build up any pressure. I think my problem is the plunger. This piece of rubber that I thought was in such good condition, I think is too loose inside that bore. Even though it feels good there, it feels all right. I don't think it's sealing enough, so the air is, the pressure is escaping out the tube instead of being sealed. So plan B. I've tried to nick the one out of the other blowtorch, but that doesn't work. We are going to have to improvise because it's full now. So that, well, it's half full. So by pumping that plunger, that should be building up enough pressure for the paraffin to be shooting, literally squirting out of the nozzle. I'll sleep on it, mull it over, but at the moment, it's not going to beat me. I'm going to get it. I'm going to figure it out. I'm back. I've slept on it. We've thought about it. I've spoken to brother Dan, and we've got some ideas. I think the problem was that piece of rubber, the seal for the plunger that I was under the impression was in remarkably good condition, I think may not be. My goodness, I don't know what that is out there, but I'm going to have to go and check it out. I've spoken to brother Dan. He tells me that it should be working. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I thought this piece of rubber was in pretty good condition and it looked really quite nice and it was quite tight in the tube. I can only assume that that isn't sealing. There's just, it feels too easy to pump. It doesn't feel like it's building pressure. That can only really mean one thing. Either well, two things, I guess. The non-return valve at the bottom is faulty and it's not working and it's stuck open. So it's just going, the pressure is just, it's not actually building, because if that spring is stuck open, it would just be pushing air back and forwards. But I know that that's fine. I've taken it apart, I've had a look, and that spring and the seal in there all looks absolutely fine. So my only real culprit could be this piece of rubber. I've taken apart the other one, the other blowtorch, a slightly newer, and that's got this piece of leather, like a disc of leather around, sort of trapped there, and it relies on that leather to make the seal between the tube, the inner bore of the tube, and this rod. It's quite traditional, quite a common thing. This rubber piece is going in a bin, and I'm going to make a new one out of leather. So I have this nice set of punches, which are perfect for this job. So that end is very sharp, and that end you hit with a hammer. And it makes short work of punching holes in stuff like leather. Brilliant for making gaskets and things like that. I think I've come to the conclusion my piece of leather is not thick enough. Well, I think it's going to happen. The sacrifice. Oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, this is our last chance. And I'm not cutting any more of my apron. It's a disc of leather, much like that. And as I've fed it in the hole, I wet it first and it's taken the shape of the inside of the tube. As you pull up the plunger, it draws in air, it fills up the tube, and then as you push the plunger down, it backs up, seals, the leather seals against the outside of the tube, and you push it down, and that is gradually, every time you pump it, it's pulling in more air into that sealed container. I'm going to shut the valve. The lid's shut, everything else is tight, so that is a sealed container now. Oh, hey! Yes, look! Look at that! Then if I undo this release valve, it stops. Below the nut, there is this little sort of indented part. That is actually a reservoir that you fill with meths. You don't need a lot, just a little splash in there just to fill it up. And then we light that, and that is going to basically preheat the tube, that pickup tube that's taking the paraffin. As it's pressurized, it comes up and snakes around and comes back through the jet. That whole area is going to get preheated. This is literally going to be on fire. Once the meths has almost burnt away, I'll know that that is up to temperature and it's a good heat. Then I will close the valve, which will then create the sealed container. Give it a couple of pumps very slowly. That will increase the pressure, which will force the paraffin up the tube, which is now hot. And as the paraffin works its way through that tube, it gets hotter and hotter, and that vaporizes it. If you don't get this up to temperature and you start pressurizing it, it can come out like a bit of a flamethrower. So just be very, very careful. Wherever you just do this outside, take care on what surface you're doing it on. As it shoots out of there, it's vaporized, it mixes with the air that's get drawn in from this chimney sort of exhaust ports here. It shoots out the end and it catches fire. That is basically the principle behind this clever little thing. All right, I'm nearly at the end now. The meths has just started to die down. So I'm going to close my pressure release valve, which makes a sealed container. It's getting hotter and hotter all this time. Now I'm going to give it one pump and see what happens. Oh. Almost. There we go. Yes, we're off. There we go. So there, that just clicked then. So now the paraffin is coming out the end and it's on fire. The meths here at the bottom will go out eventually, but the paraffin is done exactly as we wanted. It's going, it's working. Ready, so this is raging hot now. If I just literally, just like that. Another job done. I really hope you've enjoyed learning all about these beautiful old lamps. Don't leave these things sitting rotting in the back of your shed. I'm so pleased that I've got this working. I hope you've enjoyed the journey. Thank you very, very much, and I'll see you next time. Take care.